Today's voiceover talent is more than just a pretty voice. Today's voiceover talent has to be a boss. A VO boss. Set yourself up with business owners' strategies and success with your host, Ann Ganguzza, along with some of the strongest voices in our industry. Rock your business like a boss. A VO boss.
Okay, welcome everybody to the VO Boss podcast. That is VO, Business Owners, Strategies, and Success. My name's Ann Ganguzza, and I'm your host, along with my awesome co-host, Gabby Nistico.
Hey.
Hey, Gabby. Our podcast, our introductory podcast, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. We'll be blending solid, actionable business advice with a dose of inspiration for today's voiceover talent. So each week, we're going to focus in on a specific topic that will help you to grow your voiceover business. And also, we will, every once in a while, bring in some special guests to get their insights into what makes up a VO boss. So from having the right business mindset to planning your business, choosing the best marketing tactics and tools, we hope to be your guide for business owner strategies and success. So I'd like to talk a little bit to my beautiful co-host, Gabby Nistico, also known as Business First Voiceover Coach, also known as the Voiceover Vixen, who has been in the business for 20 years. She's the voice of hundreds of brands, also the author of VO 101 and How to Set Up and Maintain a Better Business. You can check her out on her YouTube channel called The Gift of Gab. Gabby, I'm so excited to be working with you.
Me too.
Thanks so much. Yay!
I know. Long time coming.
I know, right? This has been something in the works that I've wanted to do for many, many years. And so today we're going to talk about the business of the business. And I think it's really important for us to really discuss for today's voiceover talent why is the business so important? So many people don't really think about the business, or they don't want to work on the business, or how shall I say, they may not prioritize, and I think it's something that really needs to be addressed. What about you, Gabby?
It's the actor mindset. We're here with this concept and with VO Boss to challenge people to step outside of their comfort zone, to step outside of their actor brain and put on business brain, which can be intimidating. It can be scary for some folks. So there's a lot of components to it. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. As you and I both know, it's extremely manageable. It's critical that an actor have control of these things themselves and is self-managing, but we're going to break it down and make things easier for everybody.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about, what do you think, Gabby, it is about business that people are so afraid of or, so intimidated by? What is it?
It's like anything else. It's lack of knowledge. It's lack of knowledge and lack of experience that creates this monster, this fear cycle that folks get stuck in. But what we're trying to bring to the light is the fact that you don't want to end up being the best actor no one's ever heard.
You can have the best voice in the world, but it doesn't do you any good if nobody knows about it.
Yep.
So absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what's important in establishing your business. First of all, as a voiceover talent, of course, it's always important to, get your coaching and get your proper demos. But in terms of a business, I think it's really important to really have a plan in your business. And I think that's going to help you to really focus and break things down into much more manageable steps. So I think, understanding who you are as a business and what products you offer is super important.
Absolutely. And having a plan doesn't mean that it has to be pretty or, for that matter, business school-like. It can be very basic. It can be something that evolves with you and that grows with you. You can write it down in a notebook. It doesn't have to be intense. But just having that sketch, having that blueprint of what you want your company to look like, what you want it to achieve, exactly what your product is, it's essential.
I agree. And I love the fact that you talked about how it doesn't have to be complex. It really doesn't. As a matter of fact, my first business plan was simply a set of bullet points. I think it was in a Word document, maybe. I don't know. I started writing it down first, but, then it just became a set of bullet points and goals that I had, in a Word document. And then I put them in a place where I could continually look at them and see them so that I could be reminded of them. Because I'll tell you what, it's so much more helpful, I think, to have it written down. Big believer in that, big believer in writing down your goals, writing down your plans, because it then helps you to take action on them. And it reminds you of them when a lot of times, I used to try to keep track of, how many auditions did I do in my head, for the week. And so if I wanted to try to, maybe I'd audition more or spend more time on a certain aspect of my business, it was hard to really remember, especially today with all the information that's flying at us at 1,000 miles an hour. It's so chaotic. And I think if you can just write it down in simplistic steps, it makes it a whole lot easier to really assess, take action on, and then evaluate afterwards.
It does, and it cements it into your consciousness, and it becomes habit. It becomes a habit to check on it, to interact with it, to update it. So that's really our first takeaway for everybody for this first podcast, is to get that plan started if you haven't already. And if you're like a lot of folks who maybe you had a plan somewhere, some way long ago, but you've forgotten about it or maybe abandoned it, let's go back. Let's go back to those basics and bring that sucker up.
And write it down. And even if you wrote your business plan down years ago, I think it's something, something to be said to take a look at it each year for your business, because I think that you want to grow your business. And I know that, in my own case, I did have portions of my business that kind of stagnated because I hadn't really jotted down my goals for the year or the month. And I think it's super important to kind of have goals that you're assessing and you're writing down and you're looking at periodically. Not every day. You don't have to. I mean, but, at least,
could be, though.
Maybe it could be every day, could be every week, could be every month, but definitely if you take the time to write it down, again, as Gabby said, it's going to cement that into your consciousness, and it will help to really, I think, make things easier in terms of being able to take action and then grow, because you always want to grow, your business, always.
Well, and it's funny because, Anne, you and I both get asked this question a lot of how do I grow my business and how do I achieve new things in the future? And one of the first questions I think we both immediately turn to, we answer the question with a question and say, well, what are your goals?
Right, exactly.
And
so
when we meet folks who say, well, I don't know, but I want to do more and I want to be better, but we go, but that's just it. If you haven't pinpointed those goals, then you're kind of at a loss. So that becomes this episode's second takeaway, is to create that list of goals. And I always like to do it in, those little stages where I say, it's rock, pebbles, and boulders. And break them apart into the things that are maybe the immediate goals, the quickies, the ones that you can accomplish this week, this month. Then you've got the larger ones that maybe you're going to take a few months to accomplish, or 6 months. And then, of course, you have the biggies that might be a year or two out.
Right. And I think people, if they're not writing them down, probably don't have a problem with those big goals, because they know, I want to get more commercial work, or I want to make maybe I want to make an animation demo, or those are the big goals that you probably have right there in your head. And if you kind of work backwards, maybe what's your goal for the year? I want to accomplish this, and then step it backwards. And again, it doesn't have to be anything too complex, as long as you have them written down. And then again, I think it's super important to put them in a place where you're going to be able to see them, all the time. Hang them in your studio, or, have them, in a document that's open on your computer all the time, so that you're constantly, looking at them and being reminded of it.
Yeah, if you're actively involved with your goals, if you're actively aware of them, then you're more apt to do things to accomplish them. Sometimes we meet folks in this business who go, I've been in voiceover now for however many years, and my ultimate dream, my ultimate goal is to be in whatever genre. Maybe it's animation, but they haven't made any real steps because they keep pushing it. They keep seeing it as so lofty, so out there. It doesn't become part of that day-to-day action planning.
Yeah,
and it's important. Don't do that to yourself. Don't make that big goal, that big dream become something that's way, way out, in the stratosphere.
Exactly. So if you have that big dream, write that down. And then what are the steps that it's going to take for you to get to that dream? Is it going to be additional coaching? Is it going to be, setting aside a certain amount of time each day to practice? I know, and that would be like in voiceover, and do this for business as well. Because I know a lot of people, when I ask them about their business, like, I'd like to be able to market better, or, I want to be able to get that website up, or I need to be able to, whatever. And nobody really quite knows where to start. So if you start by just simply writing down, okay, need a new website, or need to brand myself, or need to, whatever that is, if it's in the marketing, area or business area, write down the biggest goal first, and then kind of figure out what steps it's going to take to get there. And if you don't know what steps it's going to take to get there, I think a really great idea is to take a look at the people who you do consider successful, business entrepreneurs. I like to call us entrepreneurs, in the voiceover industry, and just kind of follow them and take a look at what they're doing and how they're marketing successfully. How are they successful in their business? What steps are they taking? Because you can learn a lot from other people in the industry. As a matter of fact, that's really kind of, I think, how we all learn so well is by example and with others, and compare yourself.
I view it as turning envy into action, because it's okay to be envious of our colleagues in this industry. It's okay to look to someone else's career and go, man, I wish I had blank. That's what motivates us, and it fuels us to do better, but it also fuels you to really take that strategic analysis of another person's career and say, man, how did you do that?
Exactly.
And that's important stuff.
And in marketing, that's called a competitive analysis. And even though we don't like to say we're in competition with one another, and I know it's something that you talk about, Gabby, the competitive analysis can be so helpful in so many ways to you, in terms of, modeling and learning from others.
Absolutely. And it's essential. I mean, every great CEO that I've ever worked with, every great company that I've ever worked with, absolutely had methods for their competitive analysis. Even if their competition was a friend and someone that they worked closely with, they still engaged in that process, because it really can have a big impact on, if we trickle this back up the line, those goals and your plan. So it all connects. It all absolutely is like a little ladder that you're always sort of going up and down and tweaking as you go.
So have a plan, write it down, have goals so that you can execute that plan, write those down, and do your homework. Do your homework. Look at those who are successful in the industry and follow them and learn from them. Do your competitive analysis. And I would say, for my students, I always like to say, start with, 5 people that you feel are successful in the industry. And then, make it a point to go check out their website, follow them on social media, and then just keep tabs, revisit it every, few days or so, and take note of how they're marketing themselves. And I think that you can really get a lot for yourself and for your own business by doing that.
Absolutely. And one thing I always want to remind people of at this stage in the game when we're talking about really basic steps is that you have to make them actionable. You have to actually involve yourself in doing something. We're keeping it real easy here, and we're saying write things down, get it on paper. You've got to remember, you cannot think yourself into better business practices. They're activities. You have to actively engage yourself. If you're not actively doing, then nothing's happening, guys.
And the first step is to really, take that time, set aside a half an hour, set aside whatever, an hour to even just think about your business on a daily basis. Think about, okay, so what is it that I'm currently doing? What are my products? Because a lot of people, I ask my students, what are your business products? And they'll be like, voiceover. So you need to get a little bit more in depth than just voiceover. What are your products? Like, when somebody's going to be searching for your voice, what are they going to be typing into the Google prompt? What type of voice is it? Is it a character voice? Is it a commercial voice? Is it a voice for, narration? And try to put try to put it in the terms of the people who will be hiring you. What are they going to type in at that search prompt? Are they going to search search for, like, let's say, voice for voicemail or phone messaging or those types of things. Think about your product in terms of that. How are people going to look for your product? And that's going to be a nice start to defining who you are as a business and what products you offer, because you do offer products. It's not just your voice. It's your voice for specific things. And the more specific you can get, the easier it's going to be for people searching to find you.
Right. You have to ask yourself, what's the shortest distance between me and my client?
Exactly.
And that's a really great road to travel. And I always say, get out of the studio. Don't do this stuff from home. Don't do it from the office. Get out. Go to a park. Go to a coffee shop, a restaurant, a place you like. Get out of your head for a little bit and sit down fresh with these ideas. You'll be amazed how much more readily they'll come to you, and it'll flow when you're not stressing out in the immediate environment going, I have to define myself.
Right. Or you're having to do, oh my God, I've got 50 auditions to do, or whatever it is. Take that time, make that time for you to have just to think about your business and just to work on the business aspect. I think that's super important, is to allocate that time in your day to be productive and thinking about your business and working on your business. You have to do it. And honestly, that work, again, doesn't have to be that hard. It's not like I don't know where even to begin. Well, just begin by writing it down. I like that.
Yeah, and we're going to be here for plenty of other episodes to help you to tweak and fine-tune this process.
Great. So then again, your takeaways today are going to be, have a plan.
Yep.
Write it down.
Get those goals written down as well.
And do your homework, competitive analysis. Those three things. So, Gabby, I think this has been a great first podcast. I'm really excited
me too,
to continue this on a weekly basis. Our next podcast, we're going to continue on the business of VO, but we're going to talk a little bit more about the industry and the types of VO markets that there are. So I'm super excited about that. And I want you guys to feel free to listen to this podcast again and again and share it with your friends. You can find us on VOBoss.com and also on iTunes and Stitcher. And I'd like to have a big thank you to our sponsor, IPDTL. So if you're listening to this and you're all impressed with the quality of our connection and our recording, it is because we are doing this via IPDTL, and we're super excited to have IPDTL along as a sponsor. So
that's right. You too can record like a boss. You got to find out more at IPDTL.com.
That's right. And find out more about us again at VO B.O.S.S Podcast on Facebook. And at Twitter, we're at VO B.O.S.S, VO_boss. Sorry about that. And subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher. Thanks so much, and we'll be back next week. Guys, thanks so much for listening. I'm Ann Ganguzza.
I'm Gabby Nistico. Thank you again for joining us. We want you to remember to rock your business like a boss.
Rock your business like a boss. A VO Boss. All rights reserved. Ann Ganguzza voice talent in association with 3 Moon Media. Redistribution with permission. Coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.